We're beginning today's show with Post Politics. It's Perry Bacon Jr. from the Washington Post. Perry, thank you so much for being here.
Nice to be here.
And Perry, I just want to start with the controversy that's consumed a lot of the week, because you had an interesting story in the Post about some of the more moderate voices in the Republican Party that have been trying to walk back Republicans from making too much of the mosque controversy, that are urging some moderation on this. It's interesting. We haven't seen that many Republicans really go very, very strong leaning into this.
You've seen Sarah Palin and Newt Gingrich, who are very powerful voices among Republicans, but other than that, you have not seen. I was talking on the Hill to someone who works for some of the leadership in the House, and they were saying, we're trying to avoid this issue. We want to keep talking about economy, jobs, and Obama bad. You know, their general message. So they've avoided that. And interestingly, there's a divide among Republicans. A lot of people who worked for President George W. Bush, who was very adamant about saying Islam is a religion of peace, have been very much saying the Republican Party should get away from this issue. Some, like Michael Gerson, who was a speechwriter for Bush, who actually came out and defended what Obama did. It's an interesting contrast on the mosque issue, in some ways similar to what if you've seen on immigration. A lot of the Bush aides have said, why are we talking about the 14th Amendment? It doesn't make any sense. It's a bad issue. They're a little bit worried about protecting Bush's legacy on some things they think is actually positive for Bush.
Well, you know, something interesting talking about immigration. One primary we have coming up next week is in Arizona. This was supposed to be a barn burner. J.D. Hayworth versus John McCain. John McCain, the former Maverick, now standing on the border, talking to sheriffs about getting tough on immigration. And yet, kind of has fallen flat. J.D. Hayworth hasn't really gotten much traction. McCain looks like he's going to win easily. What do you make of all of that? Well,
I mean, two things. First of all, McCain smartly saw this coming and really started very early on positioning himself smartly, attacking Hayworth. Hayworth is a former congressman, so wasn't a great candidate for this anti-incumbent environment. McCain had a lot more money, so that way he had raised a lot and had a lot from his campaign fund. He actually transferred here. It was also a good illustration of how the Republican Party has changed in some way, where McCain, 4 years ago, very involved in trying to push for immigration reform to make it easier for illegal immigrants to become citizens, now is adamantly against that idea for this very restrictive Arizona law. So it tells you how the party has changed. To win a primary, McCain had to almost reinvent himself as a politician.
And McCain himself says he didn't. It's interesting. He gave an interview the other day to Politics Daily where he said, "No, I haven't changed my positions at all." It's a striking transformation, though, if you look at it kind of issue by issue. I guess a lot of people's question, though, is he going to be a different politician as a result of this? Is he going to be? Has he shed those Maverick credentials entirely, or after next Tuesday when he beats J.D. Hayworth by 30 or 40 points or whatever it is he going to go back to form?
It looks like he's, I mean, just from covering Capitol all the time, he's now permanently closer to Mitch McConnell than a Maverick. I mean, if you watched him during the healthcare debate, you saw someone who was very, and I guess it's in the primary process, but I think he's become more, he seems a little aggravated with Obama about everything Obama does, so I think he's going to be a more traditional Republican for the rest of his time there, is my sense of it.
Well, it'll be very interesting to see how he interacts with the new Mavericks who are elected this year. You got all these Tea Party candidates coming in who are going to try to grab that mantle. Is John McCain's job going to be to try to corral them? Or will he try to actually bond with them?
In some ways, the issues that he talked about earlier in his career, earmarks and reducing spending, and that part of the Republican Party is actually where a Rand Paul or a Ken Buck is. I would actually think he might, Jim DeMint is, maybe not in their rhetoric, but I think he might join them in voting against earmarks and like spending that a lot of these sort of Thad Cochrans and the more old-line senators will vote for. I think there will be a divide among Republicans about how much money you spend and how much you cut next year, and McCain will be on the side of the new folks in the party, is my sense.
Yeah, and another thing that J.D. Hayworth has been hit recently with is the ties to Jack Abramoff. And we actually saw some movement on that this week. Tom DeLay, we learned, very belatedly cleared of wrongdoing in that long-running federal investigation. He had a great chat with Brian Ross of ABC News yesterday. It's posted online at abcnews.com. You check out the whole thing, but here are a couple of the highlights from Tom DeLay, the former House Majority Leader.
Do you feel, in retrospect now, that you were too close with Jack Abramoff?
Not at all. Jack Abramoff is still a friend of mine.
Have you talked to
Jack? Yes, I have. I talked to him about a month ago after he got out of prison.
And what did you talk about?
None of your business.
And were there no lessons learned at all from the Abramoff episode?
None at all. There was nothing there.
I just love Tom DeLay because he just says it. I mean, he just throws it all out there. No lessons learned whatsoever. Just none of your business about Jack Abramoff.
And yet it doesn't look much different than what we're seeing right now from Democrats on Capitol Hill. You had this morning Maxine Waters on Good Morning America vociferously defending herself. Charlie Rangel obviously going out defending himself. You know, were they going to look back and say, boy, think I learned a lesson from this. I kind of doubt it.
I don't think Wrangell and Waters are
going to say, you know what,
Waters, I don't think so. To be fair, I mean, to be factual, there were a lot of convictions of people besides Tom DeLay in that case.
Absolutely.
I think there'll be end up being fewer convictions around Wrangell and Maxine Waters. Also, DeLay said the Republican, one thing he said in the interview also was the Republicans need to be sharper and tougher in opposing Obama. Where is he? I'm confused about what he's talking about. Could they be any more oppositional? I'm wondering what he's suggesting.
They want to dial it up a little bit more.
Dial it up a little bit more where?
Yeah.
So that was also fascinating what he said in the interview.
I guess it's that we're not the party of no, we're the party of hell no, is that the idea around that. I want to ask you about the Senate landscape, because we saw this week Patty Murray come out on top in their jungle primary. All the parties run at the same thing. But she's going to be up against a veteran Republican opponent in Dina Rossi. He's run statewide many times in the past. If this seat is in question, you can honestly say though the Senate is in play, no? Yeah,
you definitely could. If you can see, imagine a scenario in which Barbara Boxer loses in California, Feingold in Wisconsin, and Murray in Washington. These things probably won't all happen. They probably would all have to happen for the Republicans to win the Senate. But those poll numbers are in the margin of error in several of those states, and it's striking because I mean the last Republican presidential candidate to win Washington, I think, was Reagan, if I remember correctly. I mean, it's really been a long time since the state's been very competitive in the presidential level, and Murray has done pretty well, and there's nothing, obviously, she's done wrong to lose. It's an interesting thing to watch.
That's what I wanted to ask you about. What are you going to look for out there? I mean, in many ways, she has been sort of underrated as a politician.
Yes.
1998, she was supposed to lose, right? It was going to be a really close race. She blows it out. This race, again, starts off very close. People say, you know what? She's well-liked. She delivers for the state. There's nothing inherently, you know, people don't inherently dislike her.
Right.
Why would they want to vote her out?
And Obama, his numbers are not terrible in that state either. It's not. He's actually above 50.
So what do you want? What are you going to look for?
I'm almost trying to figure out for why it might be close. And if she's starting to run ads there, and I suspect that once her ads are out, defining Rossi as the next iteration of George W. Bush. We'll see if that can work. So one, to get a sense of like what the unemployment levels are. Apparently the economy is worse than you would think it would be, even though they have Seattle's known for being a high-tech and pretty upper-income area. So I want to look for that, sort of why there's a lot of economic angst there. That's what I would mainly look for when I'm headed out there. And also see what Rossi's doing. Rossi's lost twice already. So how in some ways he's doing to distinguish himself, other than saying this, you know, Washington bad, Obama bad, etc. He's going to probably need a little more of that than that to win in a state like Washington.
And last thing I wanted to ask you about, Perry, Bill Clinton out on the trail a lot. And it was a good story by Jeff Zeleny in the New York Times today that looks at the role he's had. We've known for some time that there are parts of the country that Bill Clinton can go into that President Obama just can't. But we're also seeing him, I think, emerge as maybe a more effective spokesman for the party in terms of defending the record and talking about what can be going forward. He is offering a vision, something that kind of ties things together for Democrats.
Bill Clinton is campaigning a lot for Joe Sestak in Pennsylvania. That's not a red area where Barack Obama can't go. It might be at this point that Bill Clinton is more popular as a politician right now than Barack Obama is. I think you'll see Michelle Obama in some places where the president won't go either, because again, I think that he has gotten in the middle of all these fights, you know, and this is not as popular as he was, even with, you know, sort of voters who lean Democratic. He's very popular with the Democratic base, but just outside of that, Bill Clinton's much more helpful for a candidate like Sestak, who's I think has said that himself.
Right, especially in a part of the state like the western part of the state. You can put President Obama in the eastern part of the state, go to the Philadelphia suburbs, but when you need to go out west, which quite frankly is where Sestak I think is going to have some troubles, especially because his voting record much more aligned with the more Philadelphia-based part of the state.
But Clinton with Kendrick Meek yesterday, who I assume is trying to get a lot of black voters. So again, I think that Bill Clinton has become just he's really reinvented himself from what we in 08, we sort of wrote his death because he was so bad politically in 08 for Hillary. But he's done a very good job of redefining himself the last couple of years.
It's a fascinating development. Perry Bacon Jr., Post Politics, we appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Do not miss this Sunday a stellar lineup on ABC's This Week. Take a look at this. It's Hamid Karzai, the president of Afghanistan, and a really interesting roundtable. Daisy Khan and Joy Levitt, she's of the Jewish Community Center, and Daisy Khan involved with that development of that proposed mosque near Ground Zero. It is going to be a fascinating show.
Absolutely.
All right, get us next time. We're back here on Monday, although I won't be here. Amy will be.